So, the Syfy channel is releasing a new series called Channel Zero, and it is based on creepypasta. The first season is going to be about Candle Cove. The second is No End House. I don't know if there is a third planned yet, but we can assume that if the show does well, of course, there'll be a third season. I mean, why not? My thoughts on the series so far and what's been presented, I'm going to go on promotional imagery, namely trailers, things like that. And people say that you can't judge a movie or a TV show based on trailers or based on images. That's complete bullshit. The purpose of trailers and the purpose of promotional images is to help the audience judge the project. The whole reason you put out a preview is to show a part of your project and say, look everybody, see, don't you think it's good? So if you don't think what they're showing you is good, that's a perfectly reasonable response. I mean, you have every right to judge it by what they're choosing to show you, because they're asking you to judge their show. They just want you to judge it positively, is the thing. So now that we've dismissed that bullshit argument, let's just go on to what we think about this. And I'm using the royal we, as in I. Let's see what I think about it. Alright, first of all, tooth creature. There's a creature made of teeth in the promos. I think it's a very compelling image. I think that this would be a very interesting... I think this would be a very interesting and popular character if it was like a... And maybe this is how it'll be used. If it's like a briefly used character that has a lot of mystery around it, they don't explain too much about it, they don't tell us exactly what it is, I think that's kind of a, it's a compelling image. It's, Slender Man basically was just a compelling image. And then people built on top of that. So a dude made of teeth, it's a interesting image. I will say it seems to have nothing to do with Candle Cove. I would think it's probably like a side story or an opener, possibly, that'll be, just sort of like, did you know there are scary things in the world? Like this tooth creature. Anyway, on to Candle Cove. I don't know. That's just my feeling. I will say that while I think the tooth creature looks interesting, I do find it disconcerting that it has nothing to do with the story. That's just my personal opinion. And I also find it kind of... to be a red flag that they have a character pulling out his own teeth with his fingers and giving them to the creature. The reason I find this disconcerting or, stressing, like as a red flag, I'm just going to say it right now. Try to pull out one of your own teeth right now. You don't have to go that far, but just try to just grab one of your teeth. Take your index finger and your thumb and just try to grab one of your own teeth right now. Can't do it, right? You can't really grab onto it. A little too slick, I mean, even if you have a very dry mouth, you're still not, human fingers are not capable of pulling out human teeth in their own head, or even in other people's heads. It's just not possible. And there may be some spiritual aspect to it, like around the tooth creature, your teeth become loose, and you can easily pull them out. But from the promo, it shows the kid, pulling his teeth out, and it's like cracking sounds, like, when you have a dentist pull your tooth. And there's a reason that dentists use pliers, and, even then they have a tough time getting your teeth out if they're not already loose or rotten. And it just sort of struck me as, is this going to be one of those projects where you watch it and you're constantly, your knee is jerking and you're like, you can't pull your own teeth out. That's kind of a mistake. Oh, look, they're doing this now. Well, that's kind of a mistake. This scene here, yeah, that's not possible, what they're doing. I mean, barring a supernatural explanation, which is entirely possible, maybe there is a supernatural explanation and this will all be covered. But barring a supernatural explanation, the scene isn't possible, and it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb as something that an edgy writer would think is cool, but in practice it doesn't work. And, that's just my 2 cents on that. It's just, stream of consciousness. But yeah, that's the tooth creature. I think it's a compelling image, but that's about it. The actual adaptation of Candle Cove, I feel like there's trouble already. here's the thing. People will say, oh no, you're just a big, super fan of the original story, and you're just a big nerd who thinks that nobody can ever change anything. Well, first of all, one of my favorite films is The Shining, which basically takes a big steaming dump all over Stephen King's original work and changes just about just about everything. I mean, so no, I'm not that beholden to canon. I do have the ability, I think, as a consumer and as a moviegoer, as a viewer, I do have the ability to spot warning signs. I wish I had the ability to stop warning signs, but I can spot when warning signs are coming up, in my personal opinion, for my own enjoyment and material that I like to watch. They show the Skin Taker puppet in the previews, the actual puppet, the marionette. And it looks very shiny and new and professionally made. It looks like something from a very, very wealthy prop shop, to make something that, ready for television. It doesn't look like it's from a cable access show with cheap puppets. So already we lose one of the main underpinnings of Cove, and now it's like a slick professional show as opposed to like a cable access show that was kind of creepy and on in the 70s. It's now in the 80s on the show, but just so they can have the right age for the actors. But so that kind of throws away the nightmare fuel of having a children's show that's low budget. And I hope you know what I'm talking about here, because it's kind of something you either feel or you don't. But low budget puppets and low budget children's shows can look really fucking scary. So yeah, it takes that and it just throws that out the window. I should say, that again, haven't seen the show, just going by what's on the screen. It is right there on the screen, and the puppet looks pretty slick and not really scary. Also, the fact that the Skin Taker pirate, it looks like, shows up in real life as a real monster. There's one point where you see a skeleton in a pirate hat covered in like human flesh that's like either sewn together or glommed together. Like you could see the rib cage through it. That looks like it's a version of the Skin Taker that's more like a real world kind of thing. Sort of like, when Pennywise the clown, can become more gruesome things. It sort of looks like the Skin Taker in a more gruesome, realistic form. The fact that he appears like in a hallway as a jump scare, or whatever you want to call it, it shows us that this will not be something where the horror is contained to the Cove show. Now the character's popping up in real life, and it's sort of like you realize the whole point of the story was that the show didn't exist and was static, and people were all having like a group hallucination or whatever explanation you want to have. But the idea was the show wasn't real and it was in the TV and it was static. But now the Skin Taker's walking around, popping in your doors. Hide your kids, hide your wife, because he's skin taking everybody. Third problem I can see, not called the Skin Taker anymore. They've renamed him for the show. Now he is called Jawbone. Why? No reason. There's absolutely no reason to change the name. Fuck. I guess Skin Taker sounded stupid to one of the writers or one of the producers or somebody. And, so they changed it to Jawbone, which they think sounds more, I don't know what the fuck. It sounds a lot stupider. It sounds more inoffensive, which, part of the point of the Skin Taker was the original story saying, why did they let children watch this? Why did they let children watch a show with a character called the Skin Taker who took skin? That was so weird that they would let us be exposed to that. So part of that is just destroyed when you rename the character Jawbone. It sounds like the lovable dog mascot of like a Nickelodeon, children's show for little kids. Like, come on, Jawbone, let's go down to the malt shop. Like it doesn't work. No longer is the discussion on a message board like the original story, of course. Now it's a friend, some friends around a table. And it just so happens that all of these people around the table, I guess, are the people who watched the show growing up. I don't know. But yeah, it could all be explained away in the series. You know, I could be totally wrong. I'm just going on what they gave me, and you can't really blame me for using what I've been given by the production company. I will say, sort of like a closing statement about the fact that this, it seems like, they kind of have just shat on the story and don't understand what made it scary, and, are turning it more into... So this is the problem. Like, with the new It remake, Stephen King's It, there's been rumblings from people involved with the production that they're taking It and they're making it more of a typical paint-by-numbers jump scare horror movie. Like, Pennywise will pop out and go, "Maha!" And they'll be like, "Whoa, bum, bum, bum," things like that. As opposed to making it more cerebral and more, spook-filled than, just jump scares and blood and gore and shit like that. It seems like people involved with the production have said that they're just going to make it more like a typical, in-your-face CGI fuckfest. And I feel like I have a inkling that that's what they're going to be doing with the Syfy series, Channel Zero. I feel like they're going to take Cove and take it from a cerebral, psychological, haunted, show thing, and they're going to turn it more into a blood and guts, in-your-face, zombie pirate walking around, popping out of your doors thing. And that's just my feeling, based on what I've seen, once again. To close out, I'll just mention that something you may not have realized, I am not a fan of Cove. I'm not a fan of the original story. I actually had a debate with Dead Palette. Maybe I'll link it in the description. I don't know. I actually had a debate with Dead Palette on the Midnight Marinara channel where he was pro Cove and I was anti Cove, and we debated whether the story was good or not. My position again was that it wasn't. So, I'm not somebody who thinks canon has to always be respected. I'm not a big uber fan of Cove. And I still think that the show is getting it completely wrong. So take that for what you will. I'm going to be watching it when it comes out, I think. I'm going to try to view it at the same time as the rest of the Welcoming Committee, or the Welcome Committee. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we have an ing in there or not, but with the rest of the Welcome Committee, which is me, David King, Dead Palette, Kayla, I guess Alan and Nick, and everybody. Basically, it's a big happy family of fuckwits. I don't know, but yeah, we're all the Welcome Committee, and we're gonna be watching Channel Zero, the first episode, and we're gonna be giving our thoughts afterward. So stay tuned for that. I don't know where it'll be. Probably on the Midnight Marinara channel. I don't know. Alright, I've talked too long about this shit. That's just my thoughts about this whole thing. And yeah, it's interesting that creepypasta is sort of becoming more mainstream. But it's also kind of depressing that creepypasta is becoming more mainstream. Alright, I don't know. That's it. Bye.